Brandon, I know you haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm not going to spoil too much for you here. And we're going to try to do a grid roundtable on this in the coming weeks. I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to be a part of that because I'm doing a lot of traveling in the month of July. So in case I'm not able to give my full thoughts there, I wanted to give some brief thoughts. We'll save the deep discussion for that roundtable episode, but wanted to give a quick review of F1, the movie, which dropped in theaters, I guess here in the United States on Thursday night. I think you got to see it in the UK as early as Wednesday. But my 6-word review walking out of a theater would have been to ask the following question. What if Driven were actually good? And I say that because I think there are actually a lot of similarities between what we saw in 2001 with Sylvester Stallone's film and what we're seeing here. An A-list actor in both cases with Brad Pitt, obviously. Driver far beyond the age of what we would typically see for a competitive open-wheel series. Some plot liberties that were at times just downright weird and crazy. Some crashes that were a bit over the top, namely one of JP's crashes at Monza. Seemed to combine what we saw with Alex Peroni's F3 crash a couple of years ago and Roman Grosjean's crash, obviously, at Bahrain. He seemed to take the wildest elements of those two crashes, put them together, and that was a bit interesting. But I have to say, I don't want to discourage anybody from going to see the film. I think just we have a saying in our family, like, that was a rental, right? Like, sometimes you go to see a movie and you say, we could have waited to see that, when it comes out on streaming, or we could have waited till it was in the $5 bargain bin at Walmart. Absolutely go see this movie, and go see it in IMAX if you can, because the racing cinematography, the scenes of the actual racing themselves, the feeling you get in the theater, seeing it on the big screen, that alone is worth the price of admission. If you are an F1 fan, even if you're not an F1 fan, you want to get captivated by some great action, absolutely go see it. I would give the film probably a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. I've been going back and forth on what I would rate it. So I think it was pretty good, but that rating is averaged out between a 9.5 out of 10 for the racing cinematography and a 3.5 out of 10 for the plot.
Oh no.
The plot was very messy, very predictable.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I hate to say that. But there were times where I've seen some fans were saying, the theater just went, dead silent among the non-racing fans or non-F1 fans, and they were just they couldn't help but laugh at some of the things that they were seeing, like moments that were supposed to be serious that were just completely over the top, like I mentioned. Also want to touch on this briefly as well. I think the film made an honest attempt at trying to do their part when it comes to female representation. We saw the main technical director is a woman who I think is very adamant about trying to prove her doubters wrong and very good at her job, and I think that's great. But to force her into kind of a one-night stand with the main character that Brad Pitt was playing, I think was completely unnecessary. And not to disregard the concerns that some of the critics have had about, what that means for female representation in F1 and seeing that on the big screen. But just even disregarding that for a second, not to disregard it entirely, but for the point of this conversation, I think just completely unnecessary. What did it add to the film that was already 2.5 hours long? You just gave us kind of 10 minutes extra of screen time that I think really didn't contribute much, was just kind of there for the sake of being there and adding a subplot that didn't go anywhere, that was never going to go anywhere.
It's not a Bond movie.
Yeah, it felt. Yeah, I've seen people make that comparison as well. It felt like a Bond movie in some ways. Also, one of the mechanics, there was a young female mechanic as well, and how they introduced her. Bumping into a couple of people in the paddock, and she's the one that makes the mistake in one of the first races, as I think it was JP running over an air hose, and again, just you can kind of understand why that might not be a very popular move to portray a character like that in that sense. And again, this just goes back to the plot being very predictable. She gets her act together as the film goes on, and then is a part of a very strong pit stop that's key in one of the later races to the Apex GP team's success. So again, film probably could have done a better job over there. So I understand why a lot of people in the racing industry have given it poor reviews. I think, if you go over to Deadline or Variety or Rotten Tomatoes, you're seeing it's certified fresh, right? It's a summer blockbuster, and people are really excited to go see it. When you go to Autosport, you go to Racer Magazine, you go to sites like that primarily cover racing from a journalistic background, and they're here talking about the movie and giving their reviews, probably not going to be as universally well received. So, that's I think unfortunate. And again, I think if you're a race fan going to see it, absolutely, I don't want anybody suffering from FOMO, for lack of better terms. I think it is absolutely worth buying a ticket for. But again, you do kind of have to turn your brain off, so to speak, because otherwise you're going to notice some inaccuracies. And the final word I'll just say on that is, my attitude going into this, I think, was the fact that this is telling an original story, right? They took some references. I think Brad Pitt's character is kind of based on Martin Donnelly and the career-ending crash that he had in real life. So there are elements that they take from the real world. Obviously, they were shooting it at real life Grand Prix races. I think I am more okay with creative liberties when you're telling an original story from scratch, more so than I was in Ford versus Ferrari, for example. As much as I love that film, when you're trying to tell a true story, rather, I would like you to try to stay true to that story that you're basing your film upon as much as possible. So I understand it from that perspective for a movie like this, but because of that, I think the counter to that would be you are telling an original story. You have so much you could choose from, any infinite number of plot lines that you could write and develop for the big screen. And the fact that this was the best they could do, just kind of feeding into all sorts of cliches and predictable moments, I was left a little disappointed by that. I'm not going to lie. But again, that's why I said, what if Driven were actually good? I think Driven is just so far ridiculous that, we didn't have anybody picking up quarters on hot laps. That we didn't have any of that here, so you don't have to worry about that. And I don't think Brad Pitt is going to have any regrets about making this movie in 10 years like Sylvester Stallone does with Driven. So from that perspective, it's absolutely a good movie. Cannot emphasize it enough. Absolutely worth going to see. Bring your friends from the motorsports world. Bring your friends who have no interest in the sport and just are looking for a good summer blockbuster. From that perspective, it's great. But from an F1 fan's perspective, there are probably some things that are going to leave you a little bit disappointed, but left a lot to be desired, which again is unfortunate, but also perhaps understandable given that it is Hollywood and they were going to make some of those decisions here. So, again, I think a lot could have been better about it, but I'm glad I went to go see it, and we could still encourage everybody to go see it for themselves and form their own opinions. And if it doesn't exactly match the opinion that I have or what I took away from the film, then that's perfectly fine, whether you like it more than I did or not as much as I did. I think there's going to be something in there, hopefully, that you enjoy. But again, whatever you rate the film, your mileage may vary based on what you look to take out of it.
Well, based on that opinion, I think I might skip the IMAX and just hopefully it'll show up here at our local town square theater, and hopefully we can just catch it there. But yeah, looking forward to catching it if it does show up here. And Denver brings up Days of Thunder 2, and he says it should be filmed with Cup drivers and have the authentic feel of the NASCAR culture. That one, I don't know if it's still in the rumor mill or it has been like a full on, yes, it's happening. But I know that like Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick are once again going to be, if it does happen, involved with it, and Tom Cruise, Jerry Bruckheimer, the whole 9 yards. And yeah, I do agree with you, Denver. I hope if they decide to roll through with that they will be true to life with current NASCAR Cup Series garage culture today.
Yeah, I think some heavy rumors about Days of Thunder 2, and I think I just saw from Culture Crave on social media, I think linking to Hit from Variety, they're already considering a sequel for this movie. Some people are saying maybe get Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt on screen together and do some sort of a crossover, which would be kind of interesting. I don't know.
What if you called it F2?
F2. Well,
it's all about F2.
I did see there was
to go back down the ladder.
There were some people saying, because Fantastic Four is coming out this month, or it's not quite July yet. It's still June 30th. I should know that. It's not like it's my birthday or anything. People were making a joke like when Fantastic Four comes out at the end of July, we're going straight from F1 to F4 and skipping F2 and F3. I don't think you could call it F2 though. I think you'd have to come up with a more creative sequel name there.
He owns a team. It's in F2. That's the plot.
Maybe. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Like they steal the Cars 3 plot and they make F2.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I will say, I was spoiled because, again, product placement is one of the inevitable parts of this film as well. But T-Mobile, I think, was one of the main sponsors of this Apex GP fictional F1 team. T-Mobile has this rewards app called T-Life for T-Mobile customers, and every Tuesday they come out with new promotions. And one of the promotions this week was $5 tickets to go see F1 the movie, and IMAX screenings qualified. So I got tickets to IMAX for $5 through T-Mobile. I don't know if they're still running that promotion, but if you have T-Mobile, you can check that out and
check on that. Yeah,
get a deal there. But yeah, and again, Brandon, if you can see it in IMAX, I would still recommend it, just because of the theatrical experience there. I think is really the best part of this movie here. But still, go see it in theaters if you can. I know Kobe's here in the chat saying he's probably going to wait until it comes out to streaming. Don't really watch many movies anyway, so I haven't seen Gran Turismo. Loved Rush though. Yeah, I think Rush is still the gold standard. I can't quite say it was better, certainly better than Driven. I was just praying I'm not going to come away with an experience like I was a couple months ago when I watched Talladega Nights for the first time. Far more enjoyable than that, in my opinion.
Hey, that's good in its own way.
Yeah,
I've seen Gran Turismo though. Yeah,
for some people, it's good.
I managed to see Gran Turismo on stream, and I never played Gran Turismo, and I don't like some parts of that arcade racing culture, and so some of that was just very cheesy to me. But overall, I think it was a fairly okay racing movie for what it was worth, and all the product placement and everything that went into it.
Yeah, well, but again, I think that's just kind of par for the course for any racing movie with sponsorship. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's been a box office hit, so I'm sure there are going to be talks about. I mean, you see how well Elio's doing it at the theaters right now for Pixar, right? I mean, they say they want original movies, and then they make them, and everybody just goes to see the sequels or the next installment of the franchise or whatever. So the fact that this was the rare original movie that did very well, or is doing very well, on track to do very well, I'm sure they're going to continue to look at how they can continue to milk that for a potential sequel.